Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Screen Chronicles. I'm Steve, and with me, as always, is Colby. And today we have a special return guest on. You know him as King Edward from Season 5 of The Last Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, Timothy Ennis.
Yes. Round number two.
The
Round
sequel.
number two. The sequel. The only sequel I want to see this summer is this one.
Absolutely.
I tell you what, guys, like, it's so good to see you again and be back, because when like doing conventions for the show and meeting the fans, the main thing the fans bring up is this interview that I did with you guys last time.
Really?
Yeah. They bring up the questions that you asked. They bring up like everything we talked about.
Oh, that's cool to hear.
It just shows what great work you're doing, guys, because they love it. And
that's so cool to hear.
You're giving the people what they want. So
Yes.
Well, thanks. That's awesome to hear. Thank you. Coming in here to season 5, Tim, we asked you on that podcast what you wanted to get out of Edward. And I think almost verbatim, you said you want him to start making the right decisions. You want him to be less vulnerable, and you want him to show more authority, is what you said.
With a capital T.
With a capital T. And that's pretty much what we got here in season 5. So kind of coming into season 5, how did your approach change?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad. I'm thankful for that. I appreciate you saying that. In season 4, I think the main characteristic that he had is pain. I think he was suffering from a lot of pain, and whatever you call pain, which is, inherent responsibility on your shoulders, power. I mean, people want power. I mean, the show is people who are craving power, but this kid who is the king has the power and he doesn't know what to do with it, and he's feeling overwhelmed by the fact that he is alone in this feeling and he can't trust anyone. And so he's carrying this physicality of, I mean, you can see it in like the shoulders and the kind of just the tension that I'm holding in season 4. And season 5, he's in his element. He's in it's at peacetime at the beginning. So he's in his element and he's, fixing problems, solving problems, and then he falls in love. It's a love story for Edward. Yeah. Played beautifully by Sonia, who was absolutely an incredible person to work with, and a blessing. And you know what? And then from then on, it's navigating how love and this new sense of energy and authority that he brings, because he is inspired by this woman that he is absolutely fallen in love with, but trusts entirely.
Wow.
Yeah. Edward was definitely one of my favorite characters this season too. I just love that just how in charge he was, and even if he was making a decision that you didn't really like, it still made sense this time. It didn't seem like it was like he was being emotional about it. It just and he was just a great ruler. And then just so many great moments. I remember there was one, I'm not like my favorite parts are like Uhtred and gang riding out, doing stuff together. But so the politics every now and then, like, but one of my favorite scenes from the show this season was when he does just this whole big twist around at Mercia. And he's like, nope, this is mine. And just sits down on the throne. Oh my God.
Makes himself comfortable on the throne.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The what episode is that?
That's 4.
4.
That's episode. It's the same episode 4. That Ethelfled dies.
Yes. Yeah. So you know what? Like, I mean, yeah, it's funny you should say decisions that you don't agree with, because obviously that's a thing that many people have. I mean, people disagree with the character, and you've got to ask yourself, like, why am I disagreeing with what he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on, well, it can be based on a lot of things, but the other characters you're in love with the show, I mean, most of his decisions are made against Uhtred, the protagonist, because it's not about Uhtred in Edward's eyes. It's about fucking sorting stuff out and making decisions on a part of a larger scale, not just one man. I mean, he says that in that episode at the end of episode 8 or 9, I can't remember, but he says, I'm not here for one man, I'm here for my people, you know. Right. And in his eyes, Ethelfled was the only person who could rule. The only other person after she's died and is the only person who can rule in her place is him, it's Edward, because he doesn't want some corrupt old men in Mercia making all these decisions.
Right.
So he's in his right entirely to do, and he does this scorched earth approach where he completely turns politics on his head by just, you know, scorching the earth and killing a load of ealdormen. But you know what, like that's the 9th century, baby.
Yeah. Hey, that's right.
And I love too, like when everyone's like, when people are like confronting him about it, he's like, yeah, of course I did. Yeah, I did.
He owns it. He owns it, which is cool. So I gotta ask, because last time you told us that you were reading a lot of your parts in season 4, and you didn't realize till you watched it that Edward was such a, I think you used the term fucking idiot, in season 4. Did you have feelings reading your parts in season 5, wondering that, am I again going to be bad decisions? Do you think he was making bad decisions? Were you worried about that at all when you were reading some of your parts based on your season 4 experience?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I guess there was an element of that in a way. And the moment you start questioning how you come across to an audience member, I think the art is gone and you are thinking about how people are thinking of your character. Mm-hmm. And you have to just empathize with everything that's written and make the decisions based on what you think the character would do. So, you know, it was finding why he's doing this. So right. And most of it was love. Most of it was his love for his sister, his love for his people, his love for the earth, for God, what he believes God to be like. So as soon as you have those core values, it doesn't matter what the decision is. You have to come to those decisions. And and you know what, man, like the end of episode 8, when I'm like going against Uhtred and the Avengers, it seems like. Yeah,
I was gonna ask you whenever.
Which was really, really horrible to play, because you have all the characters just like turning against you, and you are just the single guy on the
literally everyone.
Everyone, man.
It was literally the Avengers. Yeah, the Avengers are like teaming up around you.
Yeah, and I'm.
But just good news is you're Thanos. Yeah, yes. Good news, you're Thanos.
I love that scene again though too, because it's just like, it's like 8 people. It's like, I'm a fucking king. You know, I have an army. Like, all right, like, all right, 8 of you can be mad. You know?
Yeah, I can do what I want, please. Like,
yeah.
I read that scene, and the first time I read it, I was like, I don't want to do this. I can't. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with this. I read it and was like, I put the script down, I was in my room, and I was like, I don't want to. That's not what I've been playing. Like,
wow,
it's totally going, because my whole objective has been to unite the kingdoms as Alfred wanted, and this is just going against his whole thing. So it took me. I had to really sit down with it and think about, because Martha Hillier, who wrote the season, you know, she wrote it for a reason, and she's a genius. So I sat down with it and empathized with the situation, and got over my own ego, and went to the character's ego, and found that part, which was good, man, because it took like 3.5 days to film.
Yeah.
Wow.
Play, wow. Yeah.
3.5 days of just getting teamed up on by like all the other favorite characters in the show.
Yeah, it was pretty hard.
Yeah, that was awesome though.
And I think too, it's explained later that it's just, you know, how Aelswith kind of realizes it's because Edward has been uniting everything so far. He's gotten all the other kingdoms now. He has Mercia, East Anglia, and now Northumbria. is the last thing under him, and he's just sort of afraid of failing, not crossing the finish line. So he's like, let me just get as good as I can get then, right? Let's divide it in half, and that'll at least be good enough then, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, which I don't know, it made sense then after you heard that, because at first it was kind of like, why? Like, you've been so cool this season. Why aren't you just going to Bember? But then after, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He's not playing Uhtred's story. He's playing Edward's
Exactly.
story.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that goes back to the reasons he's saying, although it's not what I want as a fan, almost always this season you can see Edward's point of view is a big difference from season 4, but you can almost agree with Edward on some end. You know what I mean?
Like Alfred.
And in this, yeah, we say in our episode talks, Tim, that so many times Alfred comes through in your character this season, where I think we're expecting it more in 4. In 4, you obviously have a lot of growth to do. Edward's got a lot of growing to do. And in season 5, he just wields it, he just wields it. And yeah, so it was pretty awesome to see. And I think that's the Edward we had wanted to get, in season 4, and we finally got in season 5. So we were really stoked about that. Really stoked. But
even the whole appearance looked more kingly this season too. I mean, with the long hair, the thick beard, and just his clothes too were so regal and well done. What was it like getting the look of the character down this season?
Yeah, the armor as well, which the costume designers for the show really, the costume and makeup. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Hildegard, who was my makeup, who did my makeup, and sat in the chair for a long old time getting bits of that beard on. Half of it was real, and half of it was the magic.
By the way, that was like my first impression of season 5, I think, when I saw an Instagram post of you with the beard. Yeah. And I was like, it's going to be a good season. It's going to be a good season.
Yeah, it definitely made a difference, and the armor that I had was a lot more stockier. And
yeah, I liked your armor a lot this season.
Yes.
With the cross logos. Yeah, it looked heavy.
Yeah. It was, like that image of the cross was he's led by the heart, by his faith. I mean, it was genius by the costume department, and especially when he's kind of turning he's given to Sick Trigger. It's like that cross element in that whole scene is the element of why he's doing this and why why he's being led by his faith and his goal. So yeah, the whole change of Edward went from this, with flowing garbs and like a headband crown to like it was Alfred.
Yes. That was cool.
It was a really good. Whenever I put that costume on, it definitely helped with the character.
Cool. Was the chainmail actually heavy? Or was it?
It was very light.
Was it light?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the leather was kind of heavy, but it was a blessing in that last couple of episodes when we were doing a lot of the cliff acting.
Yes, we've got to ask you about. We had Harry Gilby on, who told us that they basically gave you an imaginary lion in the grass. Is that true? Is that what you guys did? And just
it was because it was so good about that, because we had spent maybe 3 or 4 days. It was me, Harry, Ryan Cornby, and James Northcote, all in the same position for like 3-4 days in the heat, and we had a bit of cabin fever where we all just we'd pass the time by singing like shanty songs and singing songs and then going and doing this cliff acting where we're pretending we're being pushed off a cliff, and at times we'd be like, whoa, and then when they added the incredible stuntmen who were being chucked off.
Yeah.
It was just incredible to be amongst them, and you felt like you were a sardine in this huge mess. And John East, who directed those last two episodes, directed 5 and 6.
Yes.
And 3.
Yes.
Where I'm making the decision to go.
Yes.
We told you last time was one of our favorite all-time Last Kingdom moments.
Yes.
Oh yeah. He mentioned, John East, that he was like, when we're having the close-up of all these like the fire happening and people tar being thrown on and I'm keeping my cool watching it all happen. He's like, we want to have that element we had in season 3 where Edward is being torn, but it's all happening behind the eyes. And I was like, yes, callbacks.
Yes.
So yeah,
what was it like working with John East here, because he has been someone who's been through the Last Kingdom, I think, since season 1, I think. Right, Colby, or at least starting
Season 1 or 2.
At least since season 2, with one of our favorite episodes at Dunholm. So what was it like working with him, someone who has really known the Last Kingdom?
Yeah, he was incredible. I just trusted him completely.
Mm-hmm.
And he was given a lot to do as a director in a very short space of time to get. I mean, so much happens in that last 2 episodes. And we were, in some instances, going to 1 takes. So normally, for those who don't know, watching this, you get a good amount of takes, maybe 3 or 4 if you're lucky. But 1 take is quite tricky because you're suddenly like, you have to be on and you have to be concentrating, and there's a slight anxiety there where you feel like you may not have got it or anything. But with John, he just trusted him completely. And there was a time where I think I did a scene and I wasn't happy with it, and I think I was just going into a spiral of just like, oh no, that's going to be on Netflix forever. No. And then I went up to John and I was like, John, can I do another one? He was like, no, trust me, that was brilliant. I would never make my actors feel vulnerable. And he just gave me this incredibly inspiring speech, and I was just like blown over. And I was like, yeah, okay, I trust you completely. And you can see it, man. Like how that all comes together. Those last 2 episodes is beautiful, and it was incredible to work with him. Yeah.
We were so happy with the way it ended. I mean, we were sad to hear season 5 was going to be the last season. The movie was a bit of a saving grace. That's why we weren't totally heartbroken that it was the last season. But we thought the last 2 episodes, especially the last episode, it wrapped the series up so nicely. We were very, very satisfied. It was awesome, especially a couple of scenes, which we'll get to in a second, that you had at the end. There's one specific, we might as well talk about it now.
Let's get to it.
Was that tracking shot was so cool to see, where you walk through the courtyard of Bebenberg.
Oh yeah.
And you basically acknowledge or walk past all of the main characters who are still alive at this point, and do a lot of different interactions with them. Ignore Elfwin making out. What was it like to do that? That's one of my favorite. I imagine you had to choreograph that and hit certain marks, but what was it like to do that scene?
Yeah, dude, that was special, man. That was really special, that scene, because it meant so much to not only Edward but to me, because I had my own little moment of Tim saying thank you to everyone. I mean, Edward has just, in his mind, achieved everything he's wanted to achieve, regardless of what happens later with Uhtred telling him about it not being the case. But in that moment, he is like, he's in ecstasy. He's in a state of ecstasy, and he's saying thank you to all of these people who have helped him along the way, and every moment is very specific and every moment is individual. And
absolutely,
you know what, like, there didn't really need to be much acting in that moment, because there was also an element of Tim saying thank you to the actors who have taught him and have shared such unique experiences in the last 3 years of being in the show.
Wow.
that when I look at Cav, I have my own. I mean, there's that relationship there. When I look at Harry, there's that relationship there, and James. It's all done in this one shot, which it could have been quite stressful because if one thing goes wrong, the main thing about John was like it needs to keep on moving, it needs to just keep on moving, and there needs to be this flow to it. And he bloody nailed it,
Oh my God. Yeah.
And then finishing by walking up the stairs. There's that moment where there's a couple of people at the bottom of the steps, and I just walk through them and walk up to, and it's this whole like reconciliation moment. And I'm glad it was a really, and it was towards the last weeks of the shooting as well. So it meant a lot to me.
That's so cool. I also love how you pass the cup to Harry Gilby, pass the cup to Ethelstan. A little metaphor there, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Foreshadow, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it? But did you have to? You said there wasn't much acting. Did you have to practice that going in? Because there is a lot of like specific times you need to turn or do that.
Yeah. Sincerity over. There was a lot of choreography because, in fact, when John was taking me through it, he was like, "Okay, you," and I had the cup which I gave to Harry Gilby, and he was like, "You be the camera." And so John was in front of me, being me, and I was holding this like Saxon mug, pretending to be a camera, just to see like what the camera was seeing.
I can't see anything.
Yeah. Also, I need a refill. So there was a lot of choreography, and I think we did it maybe the first time we tried it didn't work. I think it needed to be faster, but we got it done. I think everyone was just like on it. And he nailed it. So yeah.
You all did too. Johnny's really nailed that whole episode, and everybody who was a part of this season, I thought, nailed it.
That was one of my favorite scenes from the whole show. I mean, like from season 1 on. I mean, just seeing everyone there together, and like you said, there's a little different interaction. Like you pick up on it with everyone he goes through. Oh my God.
I like how like Steora still glares at him, and everybody's still true to their character in the moment. Like he doesn't acknowledge Edith because he doesn't have a huge relationship with her. So it was cool.
It was the Return of the Jedi moment.
It
just needed to look over and see the ghosts of everyone just like partying.
All the Ewoks.
It's just like Alfred standing there, and
yes. Oh my God, Alfred Ghost would have been there.
And then Ethelflaed appears.
And Obi-Wan Kenobi for some reason.
For some reason, Ewan McGregor was called into episode 10 of The Last Kingdom. And Hayden Christensen too, because we got to edit him into this.
Okay. All right. I like this.
That's awesome. So speaking of directors, we also had a debut of a director on episode 2, which you have a few scenes in episode 2, a few critical scenes. What was it like to work with Alexander Draymond as a director?
Yes. He was a dream, of course. And in fact, I was on his first day directing.
Okay.
And it was like he had been directing for the last, he'd been directing forever. And what was a blessing with Alex is that not only does he know the show inside and out and the characters, but he also knows how to talk to actors,
right?
In a way where he knows how to give notes. He knows how to approach being delicate with, I think, a unique situation where you're wanting to give notes to actors, but not kind of damage the environment of vulnerability, But there was a great moment when he one of the things that I remember was, I think it's when I meet Sonia for the first time, right? And then Sonia, we share a moment, and there's this look at the end, and he comes over to me. And he goes, "Okay, it's great. I just need you to, I need you to tickle her with your eyes. Tickle her with your eyes. And I was like, yeah, okay. Just with your eyes. And I was like, yeah, cool. And then we did the scene, and I just my thoughts went elsewhere, and I didn't take on the note. And he came up to me afterwards. He was like, so how did that go? And I was like, yeah, I didn't tickle her with your eyes. It was okay, yeah, we'll do it again next time. And then we did the scene, and it was in it. And at the end, I don't know, I imagined, trying to tickle someone with your eyes. And then afterwards, like, I sort of sidled up to him and I went, I tickled her with my eyes. And he went, yeah, you did.
And just, Tim, just for all our viewers, could you please just tickle Steve with your eyes real quick?
Yeah. Should I look into the camera?
Yeah.
Ooh. Ooh. All right, thanks for that. That's cool. That's an interesting piece of advice that he gave. Right.
Yeah, it's I love those kind of notes, because it's I don't know, it's finding the play, right? It's finding the playfulness without getting too rigid in choreography or stand here, stand there, move there, which can be helpful in some situations. But when you're dealing with relationships, and especially one as important as the one that I have with Sonia, you need those kind of notes, which
sort of maybe don't make sense like when you hear it, but I think probably to actors, like, you can understand what that means. Like, it's something weird about putting the words like that, tickle her with your eyes, that it sort of does make sense, I guess, when you're getting that note. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Was there any other just big notes or input from any other directors or writers for you this season that was helpful for you coming in to help sort of guide where your character went?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was a great piece of advice from John. Notes from John, who it was the end. So in that last shot of me, I'm holding a baby.
Yes. Yeah.
A new, but which was just incredible to act with.
Okay.
Because I guess in a way, if you're to go really, I mean, what I deep into what acting is play and kind of being present in the moment. Mm-hmm. And a child is that already in baby form. There is 100% presence there. There is 100% play there. And first of all, it was a strange situation because I was in my trailer and I got a knock on the trailer, and the AD came and was like, do you want to meet the babies? And I was like, yeah, I want to meet the babies. And there were two babies, because what if I didn't know, but if one is crying, they need to kind of switch one out and put one in, kind of thing. And so there were two babies. So I went into this one trailer and met the mother of this baby, and held the baby and made a connection with the baby. And then like I was a politician, I then went into the next trailer, shook the mother's hand, said, hello, I'm Tim. Is this your child? Can I meet your child? And forming this connection with, whatever connection you can make in a couple of seconds of meeting a child. Anyway, so then it gets to the scene where I come in, and then this baby is put into my arms, right? And first of all, the baby just starts crying.
Oh, of course.
I'm like, I've got a few nieces and nephews, so I like to think I know what I'm doing. So I just started rocking, and I managed to rock the baby into a kind of sleep, right? And John came over and he was like, okay, so when you're looking at the child, what's in that? What's in that? And I was like, well, my legacy, my future, the years of passing down. He went, yeah, but you're looking into the universe. You're looking into the core, there is this whole other level that you are looking into. You're looking into like the core beliefs of the universe. And I was like,
Wow.
Yes. And then as soon as I like the cameras, I didn't really care about what the camera was doing because I was just trying to rock this baby to sleep. So again, no acting required. But when you do just think about the nature of what a child is, and also for a child at that time to carry on this legacy that has been such an important role in this character's life. I mean, the stakes are huge, and the implementation and the power that this baby has in my arms is at such a high level. So that was a great note to have, because it was the importance of what this whole show is about.
Absolutely.
Going with that too is
destiny.
Going with that though, I mean, with the legacy and the son too, you have a lot of great moments with Harry Gilby where it feels a lot like Alfred and you, the moments with Edward in season 3. I think one of the big ones that I really liked was one, obviously when he was riding out to Bember, but the one at the meeting though too, is when you ask him for his input and what he should do, side with the Avengers or with you, or what to do there.
Hoping that you can get one person on your side. And unfortunately.
Yeah, but you know what? There is, that's another blow, isn't it? When he says, I'm joining Uhtred. But at the same time, I think there is a little respect in there for Edward. I think for his son to, that's almost an echo of season 5, episode 5, that moment in season 3 where I go against Alfred.
100%. Yeah.
You need these moments of pushing away to be able to define yourself as a leader. And I think even though it hurts, Edward is still respecting, and he sees that in in that moment. And what made that moment even better, guys, even better, is that over the course of months of wearing, half of it was my own, half of it was this bit, but then it was kind of covered with I'm not, the man doth protest too much, right? But but there was an element of over months of having this stuff on my face. Some would get in my mouth, right? Especially when I'd eat, and it would go from. It was difficult, man. It was difficult to eat, and it would get lodged in my throat. And I'm not kidding, guys. So the night before, I was asleep. It was maybe 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and I woke up with a jolt, and I was choking. And I ran to the toilet, switched the light on, and literally coughing up this thing. I was like, what is in my, I'm dying. This is how I die. In Budapest, in this situation. And I had a hairball. I had an actual hairball. And then the next day we were shooting that scene with Harry. And in one of the takes, they didn't use it, obviously, but I think it was in the rehearsal period. But in that moment, when Harry turns against me, I had a huge hairball in my throat. And
I should have kept it.
But it all adds to, you know what? I was starting to get anxious about it. I was like, I can't believe this scene, which has taken 3.5 days, which is quite a big scene for me. I have a fucking hairball in my. I've what are the chances of that? So I was like, you know what? Use it, Tim. Use it. In this scene, he's in pain. Use the pain. So I used the pain, guys. I used the hairball.
Nice.
That's awesome. Oh my god.
You guys ever had a hairball?
Yes. So when Steve and I lived together, I grew my beard out for 6 or 7 months
He
I
can
was
grow
part of
a
a
mean beard too.
It was part of a bet us 4 roommates were having. And the winner got free Moes, which is a restaurant we really like here. I don't know if you've ever had it.
We're not sponsored by Moes, people.
We're not, but we would like to be. So, no. Anyway, yeah. So I've had hairballs because my beard was like super long, and literally every time you eat, it like because the bet was you couldn't even trim, you couldn't even just like do this to trim, so it would literally curl into my mouth, and inevitably it would like fall out. So. And one of my least favorite feelings in the world is having hair in the back of your throat. Is like I hate it. It's and it like you can't get it out. It's so hard to get out. So yes, I have.
What did you get them? Did you get the meal at Moe's?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Yeah, dude. What did you have?
It's called a wrong Doug.
Or his
face.
It's called like incorrect.
Moes is awesome.
And the name Doug. And it's a stack. It's like this wrap tortilla thing.
Soft tortilla. They put cheese. They put a hard shell. I get chicken, bean, rice, lettuce,
queso,
tomato, onion, queso. This is very American, by the way. Mayonnaise. No, not mayonnaise. Sorry, Chipotle ranch.
There you go.
And another hard shell on top. They fold it up. And then they toss it on, they grill it, and you get.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Okay.
So
okay.
I did get it.
Hard shell.
Oh, a taco,
taco shell.
Yeah, tacos.
Okay. In my head, right, when you've been saying hard shell, I've been picturing like a clam shell, and like just biting into a wrap. This weird crunch.
Oh no! He's never going to eat a wrong Doug now.
So fancy. That's a fancy wrong Doug.
The thing you have to know about Moes, and Moes is a chain here, and it's so good. But when you go and look at the menu, like the names of everything you get, like is the Home Wrecker, Joey Bag of Donuts, Wrong Doug, Moo Moo Mr. Cow. Like it's crazy, and it like doesn't describe what it is underneath. So you just kind of have to know.
Oh, that sounds great.
I think it's changed since. I think now
they've got rid of a lot of that stuff. Yeah, they just call it a stack now. It's not as cool.
But Tim, next time you're in the US, if you like,
you're gonna take me to Moe's.
Yes. Yeah, let's do Moe's.
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely.
All right.
Because you kind of need a little guidance, to be quite honest. There's
because I kept going because he would always talk about it and I would keep going and I would get like a quesadilla or like a bowl or something. And I was like, this is pretty meh. But he's always talking it up, saying he loves it. And there was like one day, it was just a really long, stressful day. I was like, let's go out. They're like, oh, let's go to Moe's. I was like, fine, I'll go. And I got the wrong Doug and I've been sold since.
He's never been so wrong in his life. He's never been so mistaken.
Whereabouts in the US are you guys again?
I'm in New York.
I'm in Virginia now. I'm actually near DC. I'm in Northern Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What, dude? I'm going to hold you to that, guys. Let's do it.
All right. Okay.
We'll do Moe's and we'll do Chick-fil-A right after. So the two best things.
Yeah, and then we'll be coughing up hairballs all night.
Yes. Where would you take us if we came to London, UK? Where would you take us?
Where would I take you?
Yeah,
what fast food restaurant?
Place. I'd take you. Where's good? I tell you what. There's a great spot which does amazing ramen.
Yeah.
Called Ramenka, which is very good in the heart of London. There's this great. Well, that's the thing. There's a great Mexican restaurant. I can't remember the name of it now, which doesn't help. But you know what? You guys are probably used to better Mexican food living in the US, so I wouldn't.
We got a lot of Mexican food.
We don't know what it'd be like.
But
I'd want to try it though.
I'd want to try it. I'd like to try it.
All right.
Yeah, we do have a lot of Mexican food here. A lot of good Mexican food. But yeah, okay. Good to know. And what was I going to say? But yeah,
we're talking about The Last Kingdom. That's right.
Oh, we're talking about The Last Kingdom. Oh, that's right. We could probably cut everything out so far up till the Moes talk, I think, guys. Do you agree?
Yeah,
and just keep the Moes talk.
Let's keep that a nice 2-minute just conversation about food. And hairball.
Why eat a big old steak?
What'd you say?
Well, I was trying to segue into eating.
You were eating in one scene.
I was eating in one scene. Yeah,
I remember. Yeah.
And it made me feel like I was the manliest man eating steak with a knife.
Yeah, it was cool.
You know, it was in another.
Was it in Aylesburg or was it in Eastwood? Aylesburg, probably, right? Yeah. So, having had the beard now, having worn that all season, does that make you want to try to grow out a 6-month period of growing out a beard, or are you like, no beard for me ever?
You know what, I do try and I let it grow whenever I can, but then I get a self-tape through or an audition through where I have to play like a 17-18-year-old and I have to shave it off again. So right. At the moment, this is the look.
Yeah, back clean shaven.
One day though.
One thing that was really interesting about Edward this season is that he just does not care what Ethelhelm says now. Yes. Where last season it was Ethelhelm kind of driving the ship, it felt like a lot of times. So how is that now that like every time Ethelhelm said something, you're like, let's check the sources on this. Which was cool. We were like, yes, Edward, yes.
Check your sources.
Yeah, check those sources. Get a fact check on this.
Get a fact check on
That's
this.
Fake news, Ethelhelm.
Every time Ethelhelm talks, let's get a fact check. Let's get a fact
check here. You know the episode of South Park with the human centipede, and it's like we have to make them learn how to read. He learned how to read. He did. I think he got to that position. You know, when you get to a position of when you realize no one else really knows what they're doing either, of adults specifically.
Yes.
I think Wood has gotten to that point where he's like, oh, everyone else doesn't know what they're doing either. And this is just an old man who wants power and wants things for the wrong reasons. And I disagree with him. And you know what? That's also a thing because, you know, in season 4, you know, he's in a position where he disagrees with people and the only thing he can react with is anger or by being very hot-headed because he doesn't feel comfortable in his own body, right? But in season 5, he's very comfortable. And then if someone disagrees with him, he's like, no, I'm the king. Like, this is how I'm doing things. This is what my approach is, and I'm going to do it. I don't care about Ethelhelm. Like, I don't care about your views. Uhtred, what's your storyline? Like, yes. Well, that doesn't matter to me. Where do you want to go? Bebbanburg? What? No, I'm the king. I'm doing my thing. Leave me alone. Like, it's much more of that nature of having the self-esteem and being more mature and you know, just chilled out, I guess.
Yeah.
Make the right decisions.
Yeah, he felt very self-actualized this season. Is I think why also too I really liked him this season. He knew who he was, what he was doing. He wasn't in. That's why I just love all the scenes where now Ethelhelm is just freaking out because he's been outmaneuvered by you, or he can't get you to listen to him anymore. He's just like, no, I think I'll do this other thing that makes sense, and he just starts losing it from there. Which leads to also a lot of great moments from Adrian Schiller though this season though too, because now he's on the defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredible actor to work with, and he's just incredible to watch. And you know, there's that element to it, and also the element of, you know, not being under the thumb of his mother anymore.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah,
because you know there's that element to it where he's in his own, and his mother isn't there to kind of meddle around. And he's also in a position where he doesn't need her around anymore. So yeah, he's very much balling.
He's balling this season. That's a great way to put it. He's balling this season. And so I want to touch more on the relationship with Edward and Ethelstan, sort of more from the beginning, like when they first meet, because there's that great first interaction that they've had, and it's like the first time they've interacted I don't know how many years since Ethelstan had seen his dad. Could you maybe talk about like what went into, and how did you see it kind of going into how Ethelstan and Edward's relationship was going to be from the start?
Wow, yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, isn't there? I mean, first of all, there is the sins of your father, isn't there, where he's, you know, he's becoming how he's trying hard to not be Alfred. He's trying hard to be Alfred in many ways, but in many ways he's trying hard to be a good father, right? But also, how can you be a good father without being at the detriment of the power in which a king and the authority of a king, where you have so much to deal with, and also there's so much importance. So there is still being a good father, but then there is also putting first your position as a king and your people. So there's a balancing act there, which obviously the scales start to weigh heavy on one side. But then there's also the fact that he's obviously this whole different person, Athelstan, due to the guidance of Uhtred. And also, what does that involve? Like his attitude to Uhtred, like this kid is being brought up by this other guy who in some ways is total opposite to him and is a wild man, but he had to send him away with Uhtred. So he's at fault, but also, of course, he's in pain because he wants to show love to his son. But also in his position, you can't, even if you could, there's this unavailability that you have to show this affection, your love to your son, who you've become incredibly distant with. So that all adds to the whole situation as well, you know?
Absolutely. It was cool to see that. I think we were really anticipating a lot of Ethelstan this season, and it was cool to see you go from, I mean, it's not that you ever deny him right away. The first time you meet him, you say, I'd like to talk to you more soon about this. And then slowly you start to take him under your wing and start to guide him. That was pretty awesome to see. And another character that you interact with a lot, obviously, is the Adgifu, played by Sonia Cassidy, which you mentioned earlier. And there's one scene in particular that I got to ask you about, because you kind of go through grief, anger, guilt, right after you find Aelfled, or you see Aelfled's body, and Eadgifu kind of comes in to console you. Could you talk about doing that scene? Because that to me looked like it would be an intricate scene to play because of all the emotions you have to display. So what was that like?
Yes. It starts with me looking at the body of my dead wife. And I mean, how do you play that? I guess how you play that is to take each moment at each time, right? You're looking at the corpse of this woman who you never really loved, who you were supposed to love, and who you know what, I think in that moment he's realizing how much he was not good to her. I think he was in denial a lot, and he in that moment he realizes that he was not a good man to her. And it's always until, you know, you don't know what you got till it's gone, kind of thing. And then he turns, and you know, there's that moment with Sonia, and he breaks down. But then it goes from, you know, you hurt the ones you love, right? Because you're in a position where you're in this. She is the only person he trusts in the world right now, and he vents at her because of that fact. And then he realizes he's just in this pattern of self-destruction and aggression, and which is it, and it's needed. It's needed because he's realizing all the mistakes he's been making, and he's realizing in real time how he can be a better person, or begin to make actions to be a better king, to be a better lover, to be a better father, to be a better brother, like to be a better leader, by stopping making these mistakes. And but what that needs is someone for him to trust to do that to. And he hasn't had that. He's had to bottle everything up, which has caused this tension, which has caused this aggression, which has caused this hot-headedness in season 4, because he has no person to trust, to let out to confide in. So in this scene, he is finally reaching this redemptive quality of being able to let that all out to this person who is now going to go on a journey with to become the man he wants to be. And I think, you know, it's at rock bottom that these things happen. And for Edward, this is rock bottom, you know. He's losing everyone, his sister, his wife. So it is a big moment. And I guess it's just portraying those elements to it.
Totally. Like when you say, you know, you go from yelling like, we are not blameless, like out of nowhere, and then you start saying like, I'm not a good man, and basically start crying on her shoulder. So it was really cool to see the range of all those emotions in a short time. And you definitely nailed that scene. And it really, I think, showed well how Yadgafu sort of helps refocus you in sort of the montage scenes after that. And it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and how she says to not worry about being a good man, just be a good king.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, pretty much sums that up. Is
cool line. Cool line.
Yeah, I think, you know, that it's a great, because it's like, okay, good, you've come to this realization, but like, snap out of it.
Absolutely.
Let's pick ourselves up and head on, which is what you want your what you want your partner to do, really, to understand, to listen, but then to kind of bring you out of it.
Yeah. And then conversely, you have another moment of her that you display happiness when she tells you about the baby. And that was a really cool twist when you say, like, not another bastard, you know,
no more bastards.
No more bastards.
Damn
and that's what she thinks too. She's like, I know. So what was that scene like?
Yeah, it was again, that was joyful, you know. It's always fun to find those joyful moments for Edward, because there's so few.
Right.
Edward, because he's dealing with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was good to have that moment of, you know, to be able to have that moment of, you know, I'm having this child with this person I love, and this is a good thing, and this is a blessing, and this is, you know, I think he said this is God's message that we're on the right path, that things are going to get better. And, you know, for a long, I think it all was getting quite overwhelming for Edward, and he was finding it difficult to cope with everything, because everything seemed to be a loss. Everything seems to be falling apart. But now he has this, you know, glimmer of hope in his life and his relationship, that it's going to be a positive thing.
Totally. And another favorite scene of ours this season that you have a big part in is, and not that we liked that it happened, but is Sigtryggr's death. And Harry Gilby even told us that he wasn't really a huge part in that scene, but that was one of his favorite scenes to be a part of. So did you share any of those feelings that day when of Sigtryggr's death? Was that a special scene for you to be a part of as well?
Yeah. I mean, Ace, who plays Sigtrygger, is just incredible. And there was actually, there was a lot of people on set that day. And the first AD gave a speech at the beginning of the day, and they were like, look, there's a lot of important moments here today, so we're going to be respectful, and we're going to be just on it today, and we're going to give the actors, or give each other, the time that we all need. And he just kind of set the scene to make everyone just kind of join because it can be quite frantic if you're needing shit done all the time, and there's loads of things that go into a set, and all people have their jobs. To just have that moment where everyone's like, we are one, and we are creating this piece of art. It was just the most just the perfect thing to do, which led to this atmosphere on set, which was so respectful and so. I mean, there was the moment when we rehearsed it for the first time, and I walked out with Uhtred and James, and they were just there lined up, and it was like a Western, man. It was like coming at. And I'm like, well, you're gonna do this thing? He's like, no, and there's a decision to be made, and there are guns at dawn. That's guns at dawn, guns at noon, one of those phrases. But you know what I mean? Where it's just like
right.
It was on a
noon. Yeah.
The tension you could cut with a knife, right?
Totally.
And yeah, it was so much fun to be the guy who's making the decision.
Yeah.
And there was that interplay between us. But then I had a long amount of time where I'm just watching Alex and Ace and Ruby,
right,
and Jacko and Mickey, and they're all doing this, and I was just watching, and it was a real pleasure for me to be witnessing that, because that was just so delicately played by all the actors. But there was a moment where I think it was this. Then there was just this amazing acting, this collaborative piece of all these people, and then I'm like, and then it's done, and I'm like, right, everybody pack your shit and go. And it's so cold. The line is so cold, and it's so removed that I just made myself shiver. Like, I've just watched everything happen. I'm like, right, everyone, let's move. Like, but it turned into a real fun line to play, because it's like, this is Edward, right? He's again, I don't care about, I mean, I gave you a chance, but also like, okay, let's go now. Like,
we got stuff to do.
We got stuff to do. Yeah.
That's what, and again, like in that moment, like I could see where he was coming from. Like, I didn't want Citriger to die, but I mean, at the same time, like, he did attack a bunch of your people, and you did say, hey, here's a way out. Yeah. And he was like, nope. And they're like, well, I have to do something about that. Otherwise my word doesn't mean anything. Right. So,
and I kind of felt for Edward here in this moment, because it was like, I know he doesn't want to kill Sigtrigger, but he kind of has to. He kind of has to set this example. Otherwise he's going to look to the other Saxon people like, like, what the heck,
Yeah. It was a real, it was a really lovely scene, that one.
Yeah. That was cool. And speaking of when you guys are in the tents, you had an awesome charge in season 4. And again, at Ethelhelm's camp, you charge in on the horses, which was pretty epic. That battle, just in general, was pretty epic. Could you talk about riding in on the horses into that battle?
Yeah, into the camp, right? There was, I mean, the stunt team did an amazing work, and Levy, who you've chatted to, right?
We're so lucky to have him on. He was such a great guest. Yeah,
he's the best. He's the best.
We started watching videos of the stuff he does, like some of his reels on the horses, his like stunt reel. That's unbelievable.
He's like a Greek god on those horses, man. He's I'm like, how do you ride 2 horses? He's like, you just stand up.
I live in a horse barn, Tim, and he was like, yeah, just go try it. Like, just stand up.
Wow. He's just next level, isn't he?
Yeah.
It was really cool to do that amongst a camp, and seeing and they like filled it with fog and then like it's just great, isn't it? I mean, I'm trying to find delicate details, but to be in a 3-dimensional set like that and be riding a horse into battle and everything's going off, it's just a thrill, and I'm very honored to be a part of it.
Yeah. You were a lot of the big battles this season too. You were in, I think, all of them except like Efferwich, right? And then, like at the end of Bebbenburg too. I mean, you have a lot of great beats too. You're trying to save your, you're trying to not go over the cliffs.
Trying real hard.
And then you have to fight this giant Dane too. It's like this big dude just gives you a kick down. What was it like? I mean, you already said it was pretty hot that day. What was it like working on that big battle and the shield wall, trying to fight off the cliff there?
Yeah, I mean it's just brilliant. I mean the cliff stuff, you're just using your imagination. So that was the one thing I was so excited to see, because I was like, how are they gonna fit all this together, you know? And the kind of the claustrophobic feel that John East managed to create with that whole thing, like you feel like you're amongst it, and it's
Totally.
You're like nearing the edge of the cliff, and you know, I was thinking, how far am I going to go with this? And then, you know, you go from, it was so interesting to play, because you're like, okay, I'm being pushed off a cliff here, like, but I'm not being, your mind isn't going, I'm acting being pushed off a cliff. You're like, okay, how far have I got till because I'm approaching the end, but then I'm like, I've got to protect my son, and my son is more important than me, and I'm trying to hold back. And then it turns into not being pushed off, but pushing back. So you're trying to push back against everyone. So working out the logistics of the thought processes that go through like being pushed off a cliff was quite interesting to play, because it becomes very two-dimensional if it's just pushed off a cliff. But there's so many things like happening there.
Yeah.
You're claustrophobic, you want to protect your son, you're running out of breath, you're dehydrated in the sun. So yeah, that was really really cool to play and really cool to see.
Yeah. I really love it too. Once Uhtred's army comes and they start tearing up the other side, they eventually let off of your end, and you and Harry Gilby, you guys have an amazing charge. Like, yes, we're not gonna get pushed off the cliffs. That was amazing. That was amazing.
It's like this whole relief, right?
Yes.
And this whole, like, let go, and then I think John East turned to me and he was like, okay, in this one I want to see your war face. And I was like, you're gonna see my war face, mate.
Yeah, baby.
And then went up to it was real pleasure to and to be doing that with Harry was really cool as well, because it's like you're at war with your son, and you're showing him the ropes, but then you're at this point where you are, you know, fearing your son's death as more than your own through a king. So it was really nice to play. In fact, there was a bit in I think it's when after the battle, and I come in, and you know, I'm like saying to Uhtred, like, you have helped us. What is it? I come in through the gates, and I have this huge, like, and now you should profit for generations. Or I have this huge kind of
you acknowledge Uhtred is
I acknowledge Uhtred, right? It's a big moment. It's an important moment.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you about this next, actually. So perfect.
And we went through it a couple of times, and then on this one take, I decided, like, I'm going to change it up. I'm going to, like, look over there this time, and I make this huge declaration, and the camera's like in front of me, and I look over, and Harry, right, has obviously just got his lunch, and he's eating this like vegetable dal, and he's like off camera, and I just see him, like, it was a beautiful moment, because it was like him really excited to eat his lunch, him taking a bite, realizing I'm looking straight at him in my take, and he kind of like choked on it and went like, and then tried to hide it, like. And afterwards he was like, dude, I'm so sorry, like, I didn't think you'd look at me. And, like, Harry, in that scene I'm supposed to be like looking at my troops, not looking at you eating your lunch.
That's awesome.
You mentioned when you and David Dawson, I think one of the first times you guys were working together, and you guys are in the hall, and he's just like being Alfred, and he's like telling you, you know, about the
not to
history,
slouch,
and he's like, don't slouch. And was there any other moments between like you and Harry? Was there anything you played the father role there for him, and we're taking him on that kind of ride?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think you'd have to ask Harry that. You know what was interesting. We haven't really talked about this, but like, we were there during lockdown.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were in Budapest for 6 months. Normally we fly back and forth. but we were there 6 months solid, right, in the same block of apartments together. So we were like living together, all of us. And so much can happen in people's lives in 6 months. So we went through like a lot of stuff together, and we were already tight as it is, but then we became even closer, and it turned into there wasn't really much rehearsal needed in some cases, because through this osmosis of living together and being in each other's company for so long, we just kind of turned up on set and just knew how to react to each other's rhythms and vibes, kind of thing. And with Harry, there was a strange element. I don't know. I think he agrees, but there's this kind of kindred spirits element to me and Harry, where he is kind of like a younger version of me in a way, to the point where we are. One of my favorite songs by The Police. One of my favorite bands is The Police.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs is King of Pain, right?
Okay.
And it's like this great tune which starts with this like cowbell. More cowbell, and
it needs more cowbell.
Needs more cowbell. And Harry, it was Harry's favorite song as well, and we were into the same music, we were into the same like we were just like kind of very similar. So as soon as we met, we were kind of just like vibing,
Yeah.
So
when we talked with him, he seemed like an old soul in a lot of ways.
Yes.
A lot of his interests were like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
I bet did you tell him that? I bet he would have loved that.
I think so.
Yeah.
We did.
That,
Yeah.
Colby.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. We had an awesome
he said
talk
there
with
was
him.
a whiplash moment between the two of you where you guys reenact the scene from Whiplash at the end.
Dude, yeah. What did he tell you? Did he tell you all?
I mean, he pretty much just told us that, and he was J.K. Simmons, and he was the one.
Yeah.
Like, come on, give me more. And you were drumming.
I was on a drum kit, man, and we reached this point where it was just like I reached this state of flow and this higher level, which was just he was basically conducting me, and it was really cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Did he do the impression? He does a very good.
Well, a little bit. He's like,
yeah.
Not quite my tempo. Not quite my tempo.
Well, okay. But it's cool because your relationship with him, it seems super natural on screen. It seems to grow naturally. He does a great job of looking at you like a father that he wants to have more time with, which is cool. But I want to ask you a little bit more about that big scene at the end when you do acknowledge Uhtred, because it was sort of, and you have a lot of scenes where everybody's kind of watching you and the spotlight's on you, but now the spotlight is on you and Alexander Draymond. And like you said, this is a really big moment. Did you feel any pressure going into this moment about executing this moment or anything like that?
Oh yeah, there's always pressure in executing the moment for me. There is, yes, because there's also, again, there's so much in that, and there's so much. He's achieved everything he's wanted to achieve in that moment, and this person who and again it kind of echoes that moment in season 3 where what is it? I'm in the courtyard and I free him. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. And what episode is it? It's just after Alfred's died and I pardon him.
Episode late season 3. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment too.
That was also an amazing moment. Yeah.
And so you have these moments which add to everything with this character, which it is a big moment. And I guess you're in a big courtyard and then there's lots of actors and supporting artists and then in the moment you've just got to kind of be present and look in those dreamy eyes of James and try and connect, which isn't hard because he's an incredible actor and a very very open actor. and so that was a really lovely moment until you turn around and see Harry Gill eating his lunch.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But speaking of how you have so many, since the beginning of your time on the show, there's so many cool moments with Uhtred where you sort of idolize him in season 3, then you deny him going to Bebbanburg season 4. You have some other moments season 4. And in season 5, it eventually leads up to you getting to say to Bebbanburg, then Lord Uhtred. Was that special for you to say? Because I know as a fan, Steve and I were just like, yes, let's go. It is time to do this. What we've all been waiting for since season 1, honestly. Was that special for you to get to deliver that line?
Yeah. I mean, of course, yeah, because I mean, that's just his goal, isn't it? To take back Bebbanburg and to be able to offer that moment to him as a character is pretty good, especially in the episode before. There's that moment where he even goes like Lord Uhtred, but Lord Uhtred of Bebbanburg,
right,
just as he always wanted.
Yeah, now finally you're a Saxon. Yeah.
And there's the element of like, oh, it's a bit cynical. It's a bit, what's really behind. I don't trust if this is just for you. But then in that moment, it is for you, Uhtred, but it's also for a lot more. It's
right.
For all of us, and there's that whole weight to it as well, which is the good of all of us, and the way we can all help each other and get there, which I think is a good kind of meaning for life, I think.
Yeah.
Let's get it together.
There were so many times. Have you seen the episode in South Park with the Mormons where they're like dumb, 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 smart, 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 smart? So if anybody watches our recaps, I say that a lot, and a lot of times with Edward this season, because there's so many times where Edward is just like, oh, there's a problem. Oh, send for Uhtred. Go get Uhtred or something. And I just say smart, 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 smart.
Right.
But yeah, so it's cool to see how you guys grew. And then there's a little thread. It's not major, but it was really cool to see when Uhtred tells you about Osferth, your half brother, right? That you really don't have anything to do with. But you do like subtly show a little bit of like sadness, I guess. I'm not sure if that's what.
After
is it in the middle of the season?
Yeah, middle of the season, and then you have like a line to him where you say he was your true brother. Could you talk about like what was in your head leading into when Uhtred delivers that news? Because obviously you can't be like super upset because you're not really supposed to care much about Osferth, but you do show like a little bit of concern, a little bit of sadness.
Yeah, I mean that is obviously a delicate relationship that right. He had a very conflicting feelings about. Edward did, I think, because there's again, like, I didn't really know him, but there is that kind of relationship. I do have a relationship with this person, and he's just been killed. So the thing is, in that line, in that way I played it, it was, empathy and compassion to Uhtred, but there is this overall awareness of, well, this is how the game of life happens, and there will be casualties, and I'm sorry, but we need to pick ourselves up and move on in a way. Because if I say that to Elfwin about Ethelfled, right? Like, this is life. This is how things go. We have to learn to be able to move along with the game of life, because the moment we start to take these weights on of the deaths, and it can weigh heavy on us, and it will be the detriment of us. So we need to acknowledge, but then carry on, because Again, this is the 9th century, baby.
Yeah, baby.
9th century.
Yeah, baby. Also, when you talked to Aelflin that time, and I didn't catch it the first time we watched, but you're like, don't worry, the Elderman will be taken care of.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like the second time I watched, like, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was cool. And then you also go to Ethelfled and you have that moment. You don't really get to, you don't get to see her alive. But that was also a really awesome moment when you say your goodbyes to Ethelfled. That was cool. Was it sad to have your sister on the show, Millie Brady, obviously leaving the show with her death? Was there a lot of emotions on set that day?
Yeah. A lot of tears, a lot of snot, a lot. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Millie's such an incredible actor, and she was one of the ones at the beginning who kind of welcomed me into the family of the Last Kingdom, and kind of invited me to gatherings and dinners and make sure I was kind of being welcomed. So she she was just a real sad loss when she went. And again, like for Edward, when he walks into that room and sees her body, it's this, he can't really contain his emotion, and he gets overcome by this grief which he has been bottling up. And it needed, he's holding in all this emotion for this time, but I came to the decision that in that moment it needed this overflow of this letting out of this grief which he has been, because as soon as he sees her face, that's it, that's his sister in there. And then that's what leads him to make the decision of, well, I'm gonna make sure that Mercia is taken care of by getting the Alderman killed. And it needed that. And it was a very lovely atmosphere on set that day, because everyone was aware of it being Millie's last week and how much of a special part she's played on the show. So it was a nice moment.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Have you seen season 5 yet too? Have you seen it since it's come out?
I watched the last 2 episodes,
right?
Because I walked into the room one time and my mum was watching it, so I watched. I was interested to see the Cliff stuff.
Yeah.
But I actually haven't got round to watching it. I think I might give it some time, because I find it quite hard to watch myself. So I might give it some time before I give it a watch. But it's such a great thing to see it get such a good reception.
Yeah.
Just the fans are just brilliant. That
cool.
It's received reception, and it's great.
How
like
have
I said,
fans been with you
it.
this season? How have they been? How's your fan interaction, I guess, going so far this season?
I mean, the messages I've been sent are lovely, and even the message I get, people messaging me going, "Yo, dude, I hate you." And that's great. I mean, awesome. You've got old people you're so what I love is meeting fans, especially the conventions, who find things they hate about Edward, and I'm like, great, what do you hate about him? Tell me why. And I can try and, I don't want to force anyone to any mode of opinion, but I can kind of explain that, it's all from a point of, there's a reason why you're frustrated with his decisions, and that's a good thing.
And you're meant to be in the show. I mean, it's the point a lot of the time,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and this season too, I don't know, I could see all of his points this season, honestly. Last season, it was definitely, he was frustrating most of the time, I would say. But this one, I don't know, there was so many moments. I was like, Edward had this great moment. Edward had this great moment.
It's still frustrating sometimes, because it's not exactly what you want for Uhtred sometimes. But it was cool to see Edward in command.
People will be, and I think people will look back on this, because when we were first watching the show, Colby and I went, we were always frustrated with Alfred, but now all we ever do is David Dawson was so good, and Alfred was so great, and because that's how it. So I think a lot of people are going to look back on this and be like, wow, his arc from going from Simba with Mufasa to having to figure himself out in season 4 to like being the king. So I think people will be looking back like, oh damn, he nailed it that last season.
Yeah, it's what an honor to have a journey like that as an actor, to start from season 3 and have that arc leading to the end of season 5, and it's been a real blessing to play, and hopefully the fans love it. So
that's awesome. And obviously your arc is not done yet, and we're not going to ask you much about the movie, obviously, because there's not much you can say about it right now. But leading up to the movie, there was a little bit of foreshadowing with Constantine, who is one of our new favorite characters of the show. He was awesome. And you have this king to king stare down with him.
It's a mean mugging.
Ride, just mean mugging each other. And a fan actually asked us to ask Rod this, and we did not. But I guess I'll ask you, what's going through Edward's head when Constantine rides by there, just mean mugging?
It's the only time I see him, right? It's the only acting I had with Rod, and Rod was I was really quite disappointed in that, because Rod, I think, is such an incredible actor, and such a nice man, and but it was great actually that it's all in that one scene, and it's almost like, this guy who's built up in his head as this Scottish king, and you talk about this character so much, and you think about this character so much as Edward, and what this man is doing, and you build this person up in your head, and then that suddenly, there's at that time he doesn't know what this person looks like, and at that time it wouldn't have been the case. So actually, when you're to look at it, like when he's first meeting this guy, it's like, what is that? Is it, wow, this guy's taller than I expected, this guy's like me than I expected? Like there's also an element, I think, of Hamlet and Fortinbras, right? Like Hamlet is always talking about Fortinbras at the beginning of the play, and Fortinbras is also echoing. Fortinbras plays this character that echoes Hamlet's own acknowledgement of who he wants to be. So there's almost, again, with the character of Ethelstan, like him looking at this man, sizing him up, going, okay, I respect you as well as I don't think there's fear there. I think there's respect. I think there's maybe anger, but I think it's, at the end of the day, like two leaders who are wanting the same thing, who are looking at each other, and in that kind of moment, they are, almost two kindred spirits in a way. So there's a lot going there. And also, like, the guy is you've just caused this whole battle and war, and all these people have died, all these people have suffered, all these people have been burnt alive, and these are the two men responsible, in a way. There's lots of responsibility, but you know what I mean? It's like, guys, all you need to do is sit down and talk to each other. Just talk to each other, sit down with a couple of meads of ale, get some food,
get some
Moes.
wrong Doug, get some Moes. Just picturing Constantine and Edward full kingly garb walking into Moes
with a napkin,
with a bib, and I want a wrong Doug. But one element too of your acting this season, I wonder if you could touch on a bit, is how you use silence and the tension that it brings. And it also, I think, it adds a lot to your kingly authority, the way that everybody's just waiting to hear what you were going to say. But you utilize silence really well this season. Could you talk about that? Was that deliberate? Was that a note that a director gave you, or?
Yeah, I guess it's all in the playing of the scene, right? I think silence can be such a powerful tool to be used to assert authority and power, and to also just sit with your thoughts before you react. Which is a huge theme of Edward this season, is always thinking before he reacts. So yeah, absolutely. There's, it's almost that counting to 10, you're having that reaction to what's happening, and to give the silence is you just, meditating on the subject, is you taking in everything and then waiting a moment, giving the order. And it's a powerful tool, and it's definitely a necessary tool, I feel, instead of reacting straight away, especially as a leader. And there's, I mean, for me personally, like, I've had this little thing since season 3 for Edward with rings, and there's been a specific in season 3, I think I'm nervous and I'm like tapping my ring waiting for Elfled,
right?
And Ethel the first time, and Alfred says like, stop being nervous or whatever, and that's I found that moment and I was like, oh, that's quite a nice little character trait.
Yeah.
And then season 4 I do it again at some point, I think, and I'm just tapping my rings, and then in season 5 there's that element in the scene where I'm laying the law down to the Avengers, and that was I was playing the scene, and I was sitting there and I just started tapping my finger, but I only was like kind of tapping in that silence.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of taking it all in. And Anthony, the director, came up to me afterwards and he was like, that thing you did with the rings, I just did it for like 3 taps. And he's like, do it for 11 taps. And I was like, what? And in TV, like, it needs to be quick, right? You can't like drag out scenes. I'm like, are you sure? He went, yeah, no, 12 taps.
No, you're right.
It needs to be longer. And we played it again, and it led up to that moment. I'm just there tapping and I'm like going through everything. And then and it gave me this power to, like I stand up, and it's that moment where I walk down and then I turn to my son. I'm like, okay, let's approach this relationship. Let's approach this means of attack, and afterwards I was like, is it too long? And he's like, no, it's great. And he was an amazing director to work with. And it was fortunate that he gave me the permission to allow that time, because it adds quite a lot to the scene, I think, because it's almost like a ticking clock, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the clock's counting down, and the Avengers are like, what's going on?
What's Thanos gonna do?
Yeah.
And it's slow and deliberate this time too. Like, I think that's a great metaphor for just how Edward has developed since season 3, with the nervous tapping, the quick tapping, and now it's like boom, boom, boom. I think authoritative is like such a great word for Edward this season. But
yeah, Harry came up to me afterwards, and he's just like, the ring tap, mate, trailer bait, absolute trailer.
And
bait.
It was.
And it was.
These people, Richard, do not think it is our choice, because it is our destiny.
You're in the trailer.
Yeah,
it was.
absolutely.
I know. I think after watching the trailer, one of the things I was really excited for. One was seeing Ethelstan and what he was going to do, but another thing was like, I can't wait to see Edward this season, because he's got a beard now. He's tapping that ring on that throne.
That's what got us excited. We were like, we've never heard 12 before.
We've never heard 12. This is
We
crazy.
didn't know it went that high.
This is crazy. This is.
Can they do that?
This is never before seen. 12 taps. No. That's great. And did you have a favorite scene this season that you did? Was there anyone that was like your favorite to do?
I mean, that scene was pretty cool, man. I mean, that took 3.5 days to shoot, and it turned into a play where, I think in TV, most of the time you're on, because the script's changed in the morning, or you're learning lines the night before. It's almost like you're finding the lines, but with this 3.5 days, I had time to kind of sit with the text and really sit into it and really think about the rhythms of the other actors and think about the beats that I need to hit with the other actors. And it turned into this almost like a play. And to be able to be in that situation where it becomes about the lines are just there. Like there were times when you have this moment where you're like, oh, I don't know the line. And then the line just comes out because it's in your memory and you are just present and you are there. And then the goal starts to be like, okay, where do I find the freshness to it? How do I not make it stale? How do I get over this huge hairball that's sitting in my throat? My lines, you know, and that was fun. The scene with Ruby where I kind of
she denies you. She you give her a great job offer with benefits and longevity, life insurance, and she just no, thank you.
Back in my face. But you know what, man? Yeah, I'm approaching all these favorite scenes from quite a selfish. What did I get out of it? But then I think about scenes where I didn't have much to do, and I was just watching actors like that one with Ace.
Right.
And I'm at this point where I can watch the other actor. I mean, the scenes with Sonia, like sometimes I would just watch her find the scene and find her beats that she'd pick up and find her thoughts. And it was a huge, you learn so much from doing that. And it's such a blessing to be in a job where everyone's so talented that you can really just watch and learn from everyone's different approaches to acting,
Cool. And the day that Ruby does deny you that job offer, it looked like you could see your breath every time you talked. Was it like freezing in there that day?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Was it cold?
It was, yeah. It was,
like it was either that or he was vaping. Edward was vaping. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
kidding. And that whole, I think the lighting as well was just I think Tim Palmer, the DOP, was lighting it. He's incredible.
Yeah, we hope to have him on here. We've reached out to him, so yeah, he was great.
Yeah, DOPs are fascinating to watch. When it yells cut and you're just watching everyone do their bit, the DOP is like the controller of light. Like they'll just walk up to like a beam coming through a church window and just hold their hand up and go, okay, we want another 0.5 turned up, and this like light like goes up and like a small fraction, but you notice the distance and suddenly it creates this move. You're like, you are God. You are creating the tool. You are,
And we had Chaz Bain on the podcast, and that was a treat to get to pick his brain about what went into filming The Last Kingdom. And so yeah, we hope to have Tim Palmer on. Are you okay if we have another Tim on the podcast? Like, we don't want to,
ruin our Tim.
Be unfaithful.
Yeah.
Only if we develop a nickname for me that we can try out.
I got nothing. Let's see.
No.
Timmy. Timmy. You're South Park fan.
No, dude, I had a whole school.
Oh no.
My whole schooling experience was that.
Okay, we won't do that. My whole schooling experience was, Colby, like the cheese. Like the cheese.
Oh.
Colby's a type of cheese. I don't know if you have Colby cheese there.
No.
So,
No.
I know the feeling.
I was just Steve.
Yeah.
Like it's always like the dumb guy in a commercial that was named Steve. It's like Steve doesn't know how to like use the dishwasher or like cereal. Like it's always like, oh, Steve, or like it's like a hedge in a movie, like I don't know.
Yeah. That's why it's so perfect for you, dude. And just kidding. No, but listen, I mean, the time's flown by today.
Yeah.
And I feel like your character has so many awesome moments to talk about. I think we did a pretty good job at touching on them all. Steve, did you have any other things from the show?
No, that was
we don't
great.
want to take too much of your time here.
Again, and A lot of great moments with you this season. I was really loving Edward this season. Really loving him
too.
Oh, thanks, guys. And thanks for having me on again. It's a real pleasure, and it's great to be able to share the thoughts and feelings. And to all the fans out there, thank you so much for watching. You're the reason why the show's done so well. So
awesome. And we know you're coming out with you'll be in the new movie, which we're super excited about, Seven Kings Must Die. Any other big projects that you're allowed to share, would like to share with the fans that you're going to be a part of?
Well, projects. I mean, I'm currently in rehearsals for a play.
Cool.
Which I'm very excited about. And it's good to, for me, like I've really been eager to exercise that muscle again, because theatre was kind of like my first love as an actor.
Nice.
So there's that. I'm running a marathon.
What?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Have you run a marathon before?
I've run a half marathon.
Okay.
And I've been really getting into the training, man. It's been I'm very excited for it. And it's in the west coast of Ireland as well, so it's
nice.
Like hard terrain. And it's
when is that?
End of the month.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Very cool.
It's close. So that's a big project for me at the moment. And I'm super stoked for that.
Still listening to your running tunes? Still got the tunes going when you're running?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've got the 80. I'm currently making a playlist at the moment to I might make it Irish based, because
what's all on it? What do you have so far?
Well, I'm thinking, well, there's the obvious, like U2, maybe.
Of course.
Maybe some U2 in there, maybe some, but also, there's this Irish trad music, which would be amazing to have in there. I've also there's a track on, you've seen 1917, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, man.
There's a track called 10,000 Men. It's the one where he's running.
He's, you got to do that one then.
Yeah. Pretend
that's an incredible movie.
It's so good, right? So good. So I think, and also maybe some podcasts which I'll listen to. Maybe I'll listen to this one.
Yeah, listen to this one. This one will be a good one.
Back to back.
This is killing me.
And then eventually we'll have a trilogy for you to listen to.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back on again after the movie comes out. To talk about the movie, just because you're such a great guest. We love having you on, and we hope, we're slated to meet you at in person at a convention, and unfortunately it fell through last year, I think because of COVID. So hopefully someday that we can, we're doing a couple conventions and things like that. We've been asked to moderate, so hopefully we'll be able to meet up with you in person at one of those and go to Moes.
Oh, I'd love to, guys. And we can call the third podcast The Return of the King.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
It will definitely be called that.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Go to Moes.
We have to go to Moes. And if you're listening to this, thank you for listening. Check out all of Tim's links down below, and please subscribe, follow us on everything, and we'd appreciate it. And like we always say,
goodbye,
and destiny is all.